यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिचार्य शुद्ध शिष्मदेश भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की। इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य बीवीटी फाउंडर श्रील प्रभुपाद की। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिचार्य शुद्ध शिष्मद भक्ति सिद्धांत ठाकुर श्रील प्रभुपाद की। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की। नामाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की। प्रेम से गौ श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपिनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की। वृंदावन धाम की। मायपुर नदी धाम की। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की। गंगा माई की। यमुना माई की। भक्ति देवी की। तुलसी महारानी की। संवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees Hare Krishna, all glories to assembled devotees Hare Krishna, all glories to assembled devotees Hare Krishna, all glories to Shri Guru and Gaura. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sandubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so some points from yesterday. Yes, so how we resolve? Mm. 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 Correct. Good. Or kuch? Mm. Mm. Right. Arguments. Yes. Very humbling. Mm. Right. Not blaming, accepting. और कुछ? और फिर उसके बाद क्या होता है? Yes, Lord Vishnu appears, and then what Lord Vishnu speaks? So the main point of Vishnu, what we discussed so far, what is the main point? What is the main point? Identification with the body, yes. So if one identifies or one sees the difference between body and soul, then one will see that the soul is always pure, the soul is always good. It is only by the influence of three modes that body performs different activities. Hate the sin, not the sinner. So on that platform, Lord Vishnu is saying, you forgive Indra. He's like a madman. He has done something wrong. ठीक है. Okay, let's proceed now. 12. Hey, wait. We'll revise one more verse from the previous verse, 11. Anyone who knows that this material body made up of the 5 gross elements, the sense organs, the working senses, and the mind, is simply supervised by the fixed soul is eligible to be liberated from material bondage. So here basically Vishnu is saying that if one understands the difference between body and soul, what will be the result? Eligible to be liberated. Purport. This verse describes how one can become liberated from material bondage. The first point is that one must know that soul is different from his body. Soul is called Dehi, one who possesses the body, and the material body is called Deha, or the embodiment of the soul. The body is changing at every moment, but the soul is fixed. Therefore, the soul is called Kutastham. The change of body is enacted by the reactions of three modes of nature. One who has understood the fixed position of the soul should not be disturbed by the incoming and outgoing interactions of the modes of material nature in the form of happiness and distress. So this Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also. What? Matra sparshastha kaunteya shitoshna sukha agama paino tam sitikshasva bharata. So one who understands that yes, this is simply affecting the body, it doesn't affect the soul. So then one will not be disturbed by this temporary appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress. And then he says that how the body is made up of the five elements. Further down, only one who constantly engages in devotional service 24 hours a day can be indifferent to the action and reaction of the external body. So only by engaging in devotional service one understands the difference in body and soul. Then one will not be so much affected by what happens to the body. When a man is absorbed in a particular thought, he does not hear or see any external activities, even though they are enacted in his presence. Similarly, those who are fully absorbed in devotional service do not care what is going on with the external body. That status is called samadhi. One who is actually situated in samadhi is known as a first-class yogi. In that context, there is one example which the Avadut Brahman gives in the 11th canto for absorption. Yes, the arrow maker. So the arrow maker, he is sitting on the side of the road and sharpening his arrow. Yes, and there's a whole procession of the king that passes by, but the arrow maker, he is not at all disturbed. Why? He's absorbed. He's absorbed in his job. So when one is absorbed in one's job, then one will not be distracted. So important point is, to the degree one is absorbed in devotional service, then to that degree one will not be affected by so many changing situations of this world. But if one is not absorbed in devotional service, then one will be affected by everything that happens. Then one will be so much disturbed. यहाँ पर ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है, उसको वो हो रहा है, उसको वो हो रहा है, अरे so many things. One will be disturbed. But if one is absorbed in devotional service, then one will not be affected. So therefore, Lord Vishnu is also telling Prithu Maharaj, your exalted devotee, previously also he said, you are Jnana Vriddha. You are advanced in knowledge which you have received from the previous acharyas, from the sadhus. So therefore, you should be absorbed in devotional service, not be affected by all these temporary things around. So this is a very important lesson for all of us, that how if we are absorbed in devotional service, then one will not be affected by small tribulations of this world. If I'm not mistaken, this was Srila Prabhupada's realization when he first traveled in the airplane from New York to San Francisco. So after that, Srila Prabhupada was telling that how from top everything looked so small. Matchboxes, car toys, toy cars. So similarly, to the degree one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness, one goes high in Krishna consciousness, then the problems of this material world will seem insignificant. But if one is not sufficiently absorbed in devotional service, then every small thing of this world will seem to be very significant. So that's what Lord Vishnu is telling Prithu Maharaj. Yes. So we're doing at least you are doing, no? 24 hours devotional service. So from morning to night, what devotee is doing? Everything is for Krishna only, no? So get up in the morning, attend Mangalarti, then do chanting, then hear class, then render different services. Everything is for Krishna. So at least brahmacharis have no problem, or should not have a problem. ठीक है. Now we'll go to 12. भिन्नस्य लिंगस्य गुण प्रवाहो द्रव्य क्रियाकारक चेतनात्मनः दृष्टासु संपत्सु विपत्सु सूरयो न विक्रियन्ते मयि बद्ध सौहृदः. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, "My dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of the three modes of material nature. The five elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul, all these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee, who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress." So similar point. So he's saying Baddha Saurudha, Baddha Saurudha, Mai Baddha Saurudha. So if one has intense friendship and affection with Krishna, then na vikriyante, he is not disturbed by sampatsu and vipatsu, happiness and distress. Of course, the extreme example for this we saw yesterday. Yes. So, how much distress? But still unaffected. So, but why? What was the reason? Baddha Saurudha. Intense friendship with Krishna. Always remembering Krishna. So it doesn't matter. Whatever Krishna does, perfect. So, that is the important point. Purport. The question may be raised that if the living entity has to act as the superintendent of the activities of the bodily combination, then how can he be indifferent to the activities of the body? The answer is given here. So, good example. These activities are completely different from the activities of the spirit soul of the living entity. A crude example can be given in this connection. A businessman riding in a motor car sits in the car, supervises running, advises the driver. He knows how much gasoline is used up and he knows everything about the car, but still he is apart from the car and is more concerned with his business. Even while riding in the car, he thinks of his business and his office. He has no connection with the car, although he is sitting there. As the businessman is always absorbed in thoughts of his business, so the living entity can be absorbed in thoughts of rendering loving service to the Lord. Then it will be possible to remain separate from the activities of the material body. This position of neutrality can be possible only for a devotee. The word Baddha Saurudha, bound in friendship, is particularly used here. Karmis, Jnanis, Yogis cannot be bound in devotional service. So then he's speaking about Karmis, Jnanis, Yogis, and towards the end he says, a devotee's position is always transcendental because of his intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, to remain always aloof from the actions and reactions of the body and engage in one's real occupation, namely rendering service to the Lord, can be possible only for devotees. So this is one example Prabhupada is giving. Of course, this is a good example which we can all relate to. So person is driving his car, he knows about the car, he takes care of the car, but his absorption is in business, the real business. Hmm. So similarly, so body is there, we definitely have to take care of the body, but real business is, yes. So the consciousness has to be absorbed in Krishna. That is the real business. The Acharyas also give the other example. What? Yes, paramour. So the wife who has a paramour, she's doing all her duties at home very nicely, so that husband does not get any suspicion. But at the same time, she's always thinking of the paramour. So similarly, so one has to do the various duties and activities of this world, but at the same time, consciousness has to be fixed in Krishna. Okay. 13. समानोत्तम मध्यमाधम सुखे च दुःखे च जितेन्द्रियाशय मयोपि क्लिप्ता किल लोक संयुतो विदत्स्व वीराखिल लोक रक्षणम. ठीक है, ट्रांसलेशन पढ़ो.
My dear heroic king, please keep yourself always equipoised and treat people equally. Whether they are greater than you in the intermediate stage or lower than you, do not be disturbed by temporary distress or happiness. Fully control your mind and senses. In this transcendental position, try to execute your duty as a king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement. For your only duty here is to give protection to the citizens of your kingdom.
So till now, Lord Vishnu spoke philosophy of body and soul, be detached from the body, be on the soul platform, be absorbed in devotional service. And so in this way, you can be free from the affection of happiness and distress. So that was all the philosophical part. So that Maharaj Prithu is not affected by what Indra did. Now he is giving instructions to Prithu Maharaj as to what he is supposed to do. And so these instructions are very important for leaders. So Prithu Maharaj, as we know, is Shaktivesh avatar, especially empowered with what Shakti? Yes, Palana Shakti. Huh? Kya? Huh? Okay, so he has been empowered to rule the citizens appropriately. And so here, Lord Vishnu is giving instructions to Prithu Maharaj, this verse, next verse, as to how one should rule the citizens. And so therefore, these are very important instructions for anyone in leadership position. Of course, practically every devotee is a leader. And especially brahmacharis, everyone has some followers. And so therefore, some leadership position is there. And so one should know how to do that service properly. So here, the first thing that Lord Vishnu is saying is what? Samaha. Samaha means be equipoised. Equipoised means not be disturbed by the dualities of material existence. Happiness, distress, honor, dishonor. So if one is too much disturbed by these dualities, one cannot perform one's duty. So therefore, one should learn to be equipoised, understanding that all this is due to Yes, three modes of material nature affecting the body. So therefore, understanding all this is going to be temporary, all these dualities. So therefore, understanding this, be equipoised, don't be disturbed. Now, second thing, which is very important, is what? Samana, Uttama, Madhyama, Adhama. Samana. Uttama, greater. Madhyama, one intermediate position. Adhama, lower. Treat all of them equally, samana. Of course, we may have different relationships, which Rupa Goswami speaks of in the 5th verse of the Nectar of Instruction. Different dealings may be there. But at the same time, we treat them equally as spirit souls, as devotees. We respect all. Though we may deal with them differently, we reciprocate with them differently, but we respect all. So that is the meaning of Saman. Okay. As Prabhupada is writing, here is an example of receiving direct instructions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. One has to execute the order of Lord Vishnu, whether receiving directly from him or from his bona fide representative, the spiritual master. One has to execute. Then he gives the example of Arjuna, how he received orders from Supreme Lord. We have to stick to the principles stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Vyavasayat mega buddhi. Every man's duty is to receive orders from Lord Krishna or from his bona fide representative and take these orders as his life and soul without personal consideration. So the main focus is how to please Guru and Krishna without taking into consideration मुझे क्या अच्छा लगता है, मुझे क्या अच्छा नहीं लगता है. That is without personal consideration. So as long as it's pleasing to Guru and Krishna, one is ready to execute that instruction. So if one gives up some instructions just because it is troublesome to the body, kaya klesha, this is called this is renunciation in the mode of passion. 18th chapter Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, he talks about renunciation in 3 modes, right? So renunciation in the mode of passion is giving up duties just because they are troublesome to the body. So any service, any duty one has, if one thinks, बहुत तकलीफ है, अरे कौन करेगा? So he's renouncing his duties. This is mode of passion. Passion का मतलब क्या है? Passion. In passion one is attached to what? Yes. So one is attached to one's own conveniences and inconveniences. That is the symptom of Rajagun. So because in Rajagun one is attached to the fruits. Fruits are for myself. So in Rajagun one is very much self-centered. मुझे क्या अच्छा लगता है, मुझे क्या अच्छा. So one is very much self-centered. So in the mode, so if something is not in accordance to my bodily convenience, छोड़ दो. सुबह उठना मुश्किल है, छोड़ दो. ये सेवा करना बहुत मुश्किल है, छोड़ दो. So all this is the mode of passion. So therefore, without personal consideration, of course, as far as Srila Prabhupada is concerned, there was any personal consideration? Practically zero personal consideration. Otherwise, he would never even have dared to go if he would have considered his own personal situation. And of course, Sumati Muraji was warning him. But still, he didn't consider. He went. And of course, so many of his disciples, same thing. So we told you the pastime of Indra Maharaj, no? Indra Maharaj and the big bag. हाँ, याद है? आप नहीं थे ना पिछले क्लास में. How many remember this pastime? ठीक है, कुछ 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 याद है. हाँ, ठीक है, आप बताओ फिर से.
Once His Holiness Anandavanand Swami Maharaj was with Srila Prabhupada, and I think वो लंदन गए थे.
हाँ, लंदन.
हाँ?
लंदन इंस्टॉलेशन ऑफ राधा लन्नेश्वर.
तो प्रभुपाद जी का वो बैग आया ही नहीं था अब तक, और संडे फीस लेक्चर देना था शायद से प्रभुपाद जी को.
अभी वो डीटी इंस्टॉलेशन संडे फीस नहीं है.
ऐसे जो भी कुछ जाना था, तो
जो भी कुछ भी नहीं है, मैं स्पेसिफिक इंसिडेंट बोल रहा हूँ.
तो टेम्पल प्रेसिडेंट बोले प्रभुपाद जी को, आप चलो ये बैग लेके आ जाएंगे.
नहीं,
ऐसे ही है ना? नहीं,
ठीक है, मैं बताता हूँ. नहीं नहीं, ऐसे ही है, ऐसे ही कुछ है, लेकिन so this I heard directly from Maharaj only, so I want to present it as it is. So this was at the London airport. Srila Prabhupada had arrived along with his servant, secretary, and Indra Maharaj was also present. So Srila Prabhupada's huge bag, which weighed 35 kilos, because Srila Prabhupada would carry big book containing all the commentaries of the acharyas. So therefore it weighed 35 kilos. So the big bag did not come. And so the airport official said, okay, wait for some time, it'll come in some time. So now of course Srila Prabhupada could not wait, because there was program, DT installation program. So Srila Prabhupada was looking around, so who's going to wait? And then Indra Maharaj says he was hiding behind a pillar so that Prabhupada doesn't notice him. But what to do? Srila Prabhupada saw him. And Srila Prabhupada said, Indradumna can wait. अभी क्या करे? गुरु का आदेश है. So okay, he was not very happy, because such an important historical event, first time installation of Radha Krishna deities in London. So, but in any case, now he received the order, he has to wait. So he waited, the bag came after 2 hours. 2 long hours. And so when the bag came, so he was very disappointed. He had to wait for 2 hours. So in any case, he took the bag, he called one taxi, and he was very morose. Somehow he put the bag in the taxi. So even the taxi fellow asked him, what's wrong with you today? So Maharaj says, so the taxi fellow asked him, did you get out wrong side of the bed? So in any case, he reached the temple. Obviously, the installation program was finished. Srila Prabhupada's lecture was finished. And the special attraction for the program was the feast, especially cooked by Yamuna Mataji, world famous cook at that time. So he thought maybe at least some prasad will be there. So he went to the brahmachari ashram, and he saw all the brahmacharis were lying down on their left side. No, what is significance of lying on the left side? It's good for digestion. If you have eaten a lot, any time, lying on the left side is good for digestion. If it said if you lie on the right side, it increases acidity. So in any case, so they were all lying down, and Anyway, Maharaj puts it a little more graphically. So they were all brahmacharis. At that time, mostly everyone was brahmachari. But he says their tummies were full and they looked as if they were 7 months pregnant. I am only repeating Maharaj's words. So any case, so he went up to one of them and asked, "So is there any prasad remaining?" So the brahmachari, he was too tired eating to say anything. But he said, "Nothing remaining." So Maharaj was really frustrated. He didn't get anything. So in any case, so then now he has to carry there was no lift. So I think so even now there's no lift, because recently Shrutikirti Prabhu was giving a lecture there. He was commenting on that. Any case. So now Srila Prabhupada's room is on the top floor, whatever that is, third, fourth or whatever. So now he has to take the big bag, 35 kilos. So he can't lift it, so he's dragging it behind. Something's heavy. Those days there were no trolley bags. Whatever it is. So something is difficult, one tends to drag it, right? So he was dragging it up the stairs, going behind, I say. He's walking and he's dragging. So he reached on top finally, totally exhausted by the time he reached on top. And he's still dragging inside Srila Prabhupada's room. So he's not seeing what's behind, he's just dragging it. So then Nandakumar Prabhupada's servant says, "Stop! See who's behind." So Indra Maharaj saw behind, and there was Srila Prabhupada standing. Srila Prabhupada had just taken a massage with sandalwood oil, and so beautiful fragrance, sandalwood oil, and Srila Prabhupada was glowing, effulgent. And so he immediately fell flat at the feet of Srila Prabhupada. And as he was getting up, Srila Prabhupada lovingly but firmly slapped him on the back. And he said something very instructive for all of us. So much inconvenience in this material world. But when I take you back to the spiritual world, everything will become easy and sublime. So that is what one will get if one, follows the instructions of the spiritual master. So yes, there is inconvenience, lot of inconvenience. Juhu story, we all know. How much inconvenience? So, can't imagine. One Mataji was saying, who was this? Was it Vishaka Mataji or some Mataji? She was telling that how when she was staying here on this Juhu land, there were tenant buildings, right? Tenant buildings were here. When we were coming in the early days, some few tenant buildings were still there that time, before this heaven and earth. Some tenant buildings. So anyway, Srila Prabhupada was staying in one of them, but as far as the remaining devotees were concerned, in the middle of that land, there was some old broken down house with no proper windows or doors, or just broken down, filled with rats and mosquitoes. And so this Mataji was in one of those rooms which didn't have any proper windows, nothing. And so a lot of mosquitoes, so she was sleeping in a mosquito net. And so in the middle of the night, she felt somebody is dragging her. And so she woke up and she saw one camel. So the camel had put his head through the window and was dragging the mosquito net. She was terrified. So, anyway, we have all read the book, so we know the terrible, terrible austerities proper disciples had to go through. But all that, and so many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they say that the reason they could go through all that, the happiness which they felt was, what? This is all is for Srila Prabhupada. That was their happiness. Their happiness was, okay, all this is for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. So, it doesn't matter. So that was the love which Srila Prabhupada had for them and they had for Srila Prabhupada. And because of the love, they were ready to go through all those difficulties. So of course, the same consciousness has to continue. Now also, all of us, we are rendering services for whom? For the same reason. We are still rendering services for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and all the Acharyas and the Vaishnavas. So we have to be in the same consciousness actually. So sometimes we tend to forget the connection. So sometimes we think that, oh, I'm rendering service for this devotee or this devotee or this devotee. But we fail to see the connection. So whether it is this devotee or this devotee or this devotee, ultimately they're all connected to Srila Prabhupada. That is what is meant by parampara, isn't it? So we still have to be in that consciousness that we are rendering all these services for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. And if we go through some difficulties, then Srila Prabhupada will be pleased. And then he will bless us and take us to the spiritual world. So that is what Lord Vishnu is telling here. Okay, that one must follow the instructions. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Srila Vishwanath Thakur states that one should not care very much whether he is going to be liberated or not, but he should simply execute the direct order received from the spiritual master. Another purport, Srila Prabhupada says that one should not be very much concerned whether one is going back to Godhead or no. That's not our main concern. Our main concern is to follow the instructions and please the spiritual master. That's our main concern. Whether we are going back to the spiritual world or not, that anyway is not in our hands. Krishna will see what's going to happen. But so that Vishwanath Thakur actually says the same thing. He says it doesn't matter whether samsara is there or samsara is not there. That means whether one will continue in samsara or whether one will be liberated from samsara. It does not matter. But what one should be interested in? Simply execute the direct order received from the spiritual master. If one sticks, now this is an important point which we already discussed day before. If one sticks to the principle of abiding by the order of the spiritual master, he will always remain in a liberated position. We discussed this point, right? Yes. Who is on the liberated position? The person fully following the liberated person. So if one is actually following the liberated person, then his activities are on the liberated. Same point here also. If one sticks to the principle of abiding by the order of the spiritual master, he will always remain in a liberated position. Okay, and then he's talking about how one must execute one's duties according to one ashram. And all of them are ultimately meant for samsiddhir haritoshanam. Just let's finish this. As a king, Prithu Maharaj was ordered by Lord Vishnu to keep himself always aloof from the activities of the bodily situation and to engage always in the service of the Lord and thus keep himself in the liberated stage. The word Baddha Sauruda in the previous verse is explained herewith. One can fully remain, now Prabhupada is explaining how one can remain Baddha Sauruda, how one can have that intimate relationship with the Supreme Lord. One can fully remain in intimate connection with the Supreme Lord directly or receive orders from his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, and execute the orders sincerely when one keeps aloof from the activities of the body. So this is how, so one can have friendly relation with the Supreme Lord if one executes the instructions of the spiritual master sincerely. The Lord helps us by giving us directions how to act in devotional service and thus advance on the path back home, back to Godhead. He instructs us outwardly in the form of spiritual master, and therefore one should not accept the spiritual master as an ordinary human being. Acharya mam vijanyan nava manyeta karhichit. One should treat the spiritual master as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, never be envious of him or consider him to be an ordinary human being. If we follow the instruction of the spiritual master and execute devotional service to the Lord, we will always remain aloof. We will remain always free from the contamination of bodily and mental and material activities, and our life will be successful. Okay, so that's how one can remain on the liberated position, unaffected by the contamination of bodily and material activities, if we are fixed in the service to the Lord and the instructions of the spiritual master. That is how Baddha Sauruda. So coming back to the verse, so here Lord Vishnu is telling Prithu Maharaj, what all he's telling? First thing is, be equipoised. Second thing is, treat people equally. Don't show partiality. Treat them equally. So just like the Lord, Samom Sarva Bhuteshu, Name Dveshu Asti Na Priya. So similarly saying, whether they are Uttama, Madhyama or Adhama, treat them samana, treat them equally. And then sukkecha dukkecha jitendriya. So control your senses, don't be disturbed in sukha and dukkha, and fully control your mind and senses. So because if one does not control the mind and senses, how is it possible to rule properly? So with the disturbed mind and senses, one will be so much affected. How can one rule the subordinates properly? In this transcendental position, try to execute your duty as a king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement. Maya upaklipta akhila loka sanyuta. So whatever is my arrangement, Maya upaklipta. So whatever arrangement I make for you, in that arrangement, you have to do your duty of protecting the citizens. Loka Rakshanam. Vidatsva Virakila Loka Rakshanam. So the duty is Loka Rakshanam, and in whatever situation the Lord arranges, something may be pleasant, something may be unpleasant, but duty has to go on. Duty of Loka Rakshanam has to go on. So these are the duties of leaders. So one cannot be too much affected by the dualities of this world and give up one's duties.
If somebody is given this leadership position without these qualities, then how can see this situation?
Then gradually he should develop the qualities.
Okay. And in the previous paragraph of this purport, there is sentence is given that directly instruction from Krishna is represented by the bona fide spiritual master. So here is simply execute the direct order received from the spiritual master. So he could have written order received from spiritual master. What makes the direct order? And we see in the past time Prabhupada also, he was directed and instructed by his spiritual master to do the instructions. So In our cases where are not directly in touch with Prabhupada as a pure devotee, so how we have to execute his order, or how we can directly take his life and soul, his order, and make our life successful.
Right. So therefore we were making the point, parampara. So parampara means what? So whoever is coming down from Srila Prabhupada is all connected. So therefore we are making the point. So even though we may be serving some devotee, we should understand that that devotee whom we are serving is also connected to Srila Prabhupada through the parampara. We must have faith in this. So don't see anyone disconnected from parampara. See everyone in connection. Then one can develop faith. So, the example is given. Srila Prabhupada gives this example in one lecture. So he says, just like there is constable on the road. So that constable, how much he may be earning? Whatever, 15,000, 20,000, whatever. But even a millionaire has to stop the car. Correct? He stops, no? He has to stop if he tells to stop. Why? Yes. Because he is representing the government. Because of the connection. He is getting his power from the connection. He may be 10th class man with a 10th class character, useless fellow. So he may be having so many disqualifications. But still when he tells to stop, the millionaire has to stop. Because from where he's getting the power? Is it because of his character? Is it because of his money? No. His power is coming from connection to the government. So similarly, so if somebody has been posted in a managerial position by his higher authorities, then irrespective, of course, we definitely expect that he should have certain qualities, certain qualifications, certain character. That all is definitely there, and that is for the seniors to see all that. But when somebody is posted in some position, and if I'm in a subordinate role, then it is my duty to obey, because he is in that position and he is connected to the parampara. Therefore, if I follow that person, it is as good as following the parampara. It is as good as following Srila Prabhupada's instructions. That is how parampara works. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada therefore insisted on this point actually. He insisted that how one must follow the instructions of local authorities, temple president. Srila Prabhupada was very firm on this point. Because otherwise, how can institution be managed? Very difficult. So one has to understand that whoever has been appointed in a position, if he follows instructions, it is as good as following the instructions of the Acharya. Because that is the meaning of parampara. So that much faith we must have.
Seems like it's having blind faith because...
No, it is not blind faith. So if there is some severe discrepancy in instructions that are coming, then one can definitely clarify, consult other senior devotees, that all facility is there. But in general, when instruction is given by any person in any position, then one must learn to follow that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the Siddhanta, what? What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave? No. Yes. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalyor Das Anudas. This is our Siddhanta. So therefore, we are ready to follow anyone's instructions if he is It doesn't matter, senior, equal, junior. If somebody has been authorized to give instructions and I am in a subordinate position, then I must follow the instructions. Then I will make progress. If I follow, I will make progress. That was Srila Prabhupada's point many times. So he said, even if the temple president may be wrong, but if the subordinate follows his instructions, he will make progress. And then, of course, he also said that if somebody in senior position is giving wrong instructions, then other seniors can bring it to the notice of higher authorities or discuss or whatever. But the subordinates should follow. Then they will make progress. Otherwise, if every subordinate keeps questioning his authority, Arey, what instruction? Arey, why this instruction? Why that instruction? How institution will run? Not possible. So see, these are all Srila Prabhupada's instructions. And the more we align ourselves with Srila Prabhupada's instructions, we'll make progress. So, that is what Srila Prabhupada expected. He expected cooperation. And this is what is meant by cooperation. Okay. Okay. 14. Now this is a very important verse, 14th one. Shreya prajapalanameva ragyo yat samparaye sukritat sashtamamsham hartan yatharit punya prajanam arakshita karaharugham matti. Read.
Translation. To give protection to the general mass of people who are citizens of the state is the prescribed occupational duty for a king. By acting in that way, the king in his next life shares 1/6 of the result of pious activities of the citizens. But a king or executive head of state who simply collects his taxes from the citizens but does not give them proper protection as human beings has the result of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens. And in exchange of his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects.
So, the Lord is giving some very important instructions. So, whatever duty one may have, there are two aspects: rights and responsibilities. So, just like somebody is, Prabhupada often gives the example, High Court judge. So, if somebody is a High Court judge, he has some rights, isn't it? What rights he has? Okay. His rights means his privileges. What privileges he is entitled to. Yes, so he may have some facilities like a bungalow, a car, yes, servants, and so on and so forth. So some office and this and that. So these are his rights. But the rights come along with responsibility. So Srila Prabhupada, he begins the purport to the third mantra of the Ishopanishad. The first sentence of the purport. What is that? I am talking about Ishopanishad third mantra purport. Human life is a life of responsibility. That is the first sentence of the purport. Human life is a life of responsibility. Good, thank you. Yes. Human life is distinguished from animal life due to its heavy responsibilities. Heavy responsibilities. And then Srila Prabhupada explains that how in human life there are more facilities given than in animals. So he gives the example of how humans have better facilities than animals. Okay, it's a good brain. Okay. Okay. So anyway, Srila Prabhupada's example is, if you've seen a small bird eating grains, so much of anxiety. So much of anxiety. So if you ever noticed, so you see the bird picks up something. Actually, I was observing once carefully. Near the window there was a bird. So the bird is picking up some food was there. So the bird picks up, looks here, drops it. Again looks here, again picks up, again drops it. So much of anxiety. Just for eating that small particle of food. हमारे साथ ऐसा होता है हाँ So there are no anxieties for basic facilities usually. For a normal human being, there are no anxieties for some basic facilities. हम आराम से बैठकर खाते हैं ना, कोई भी व्यक्ति आराम से बैठकर खाता है. लेकिन now in the name of advancement, so much of degradation, people have no time to even eat peacefully. This is the situation. And they call it advancement. Actually, it's degradation. That shows that actually they're coming down to animal life. So much of anxiety even while eating. That is the problem. Situation. But in any case, but in general, human beings don't have so much of anxiety. So basic facilities mil jata hai. So why the human beings are given basic facilities easily? Because what we are discussing here. Yes, because of the heavy responsibility. So when there is more responsibility, then there are more facilities. And then Prabhupada's example is the High Court judge and the clerk. So the High Court judge may come to the court for 2-3 hours, pass judgments and go. And the clerk may be sitting throughout the day. But yet who gets more facilities? The High Court judge. Because more responsibility. So the facilities have been given to facilitate the higher responsibility. For that the facilities are given. Correct? The facilities are there to facilitate the higher responsibility. So if somebody says, I will only use facilities, I will take care of my rights. People are very eager to get their rights, isn't it? जैसे ही कुछ पोस्ट पोजीशन मिलता है, तुरंत लोग क्या पूछते हैं? क्या मिलने वाला है? क्या लाभ मिलेगा? क्या बेनिफिट्स मिलेगा? That people are very eager to take. Yes. So many wars, so many movements, revolutions are for what? Rights, human rights. So many revolutions have taken place in history. Human rights. So people are very enthusiastic to get their rights. But then what about responsibility? So then, if one only uses facilities or takes care of the rights, but does not carry out responsibility, what will be the result? Yes. Then the facilities will be taken away and the responsibility also will be taken away. Both will be taken away. That is what happens. This is law of nature. If a human being who has been given more facilities and more responsibility. So if he only uses the facility but doesn't perform his responsibility in human life, what is the responsibility in human life? Yes, self-realization, Krishna consciousness. So if he doesn't take that responsibility, but only he makes use of the facilities, what happens? He's punished. So what happens? Yes. Then animal life. Then no facility, no responsibility. Both taken away. This is law of nature. If one misuses facilities, that means one is using facilities without responsibility. Then facilities are taken away. And then responsibility also goes away. This is what happens. This is a universal principle. We should remember this. So even as brahmacharis, we should remember this. So as brahmacharis, there are a lot of facilities, especially in a place like Juhu. So first class facilities for staying, prasadam, practically there's no scarcity of anything, right? Everything is first class, as far as facilities are concerned. But if we only use the facilities and don't perform our responsibilities properly, then what will happen? They'll be taken away. We should not take things for granted. We should always remember this. And there's sufficient evidence in history. Sufficient evidence in history. Yes. So therefore, as Srila Prabhupada again writes in his purports, one has to be sincere. One has to be sincere. So if we think, अरे ठीक है, सब कुछ यूज करेंगे, प्रभुपाद ने सब कुछ दिया है, आराम से रहेंगे, ठीक है, मॉर्निंग प्रोग्राम कौन पूछने वाला है, ठीक है, आएंगे नहीं आएंगे, क्लास में आएंगे नहीं आएंगे, सब चलता है. No, नहीं चलता है. So what Krishna will do? Krishna through material energy will implant material desires. This is what happens. Then material energy will take action. Then material desires will come up. Then nobody needs to say anything. The brahmachari on his own, he will go out. On his own. Nobody needs to say anything. On his own, he will go out to fulfill his material desires. This is what happens. And these are all laws of nature, very stringent. We can't play around. So therefore, a lot of facilities, rights, everything is there. But one has to fulfill responsibilities. Otherwise, everything will be taken away. So, otherwise, Srila Prabhupada will say, why you're staying here and getting everything free? Those poor grihasthas are working day and night to get those same things. Right? They're working so hard. For the same basic facility, they're working so hard. Then why the brahmacharis are getting everything free? So there is a higher responsibility, a very serious responsibility. That is why they're getting all these things free. And the responsibility is what? To set the high standard of spiritual life as brahmacharis. That is the higher responsibility. So, those who are in the renounced order, they are supposed to set a very high standard for grihasthas to get inspiration. That should be the standard. That is what is expected. So if one doesn't take that responsibility, but simply enjoys facilities, it will be taken away. Then again, okay, go work hard to get everything. That is what will happen. So this is the same principle which Lord Vishnu is speaking about here to Maharaj Prithu. So he's saying, as a king, there is a responsibility. What is that? Praja Palanam. That is a responsibility. Praja Palanam. Ruling over the citizens. and giving protection. So ruling means protection. So if one, so the right of the king is to take taxes, that is his right. So he has the right to tax the citizens and of course use that money for protecting the citizens. So now if the king only takes taxes but does not do his duty of protecting the citizens, then what will happen? Then he has to undergo sinful reactions of the citizens. He will share in the sinful reactions of the citizens. That's what. In exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. That is what will happen. So one is only taking money, but not doing the duty of protection. Then he has to get the sinful reactions of the citizens. But if one takes taxes, at the same time does his duty, then what will happen? Yes, he will get 1/6 of the result of the pious activities of the citizens. Sukritat, shashtam amsham, 1/6. So that is what he will get if he uses the taxes for the right purpose. Anyatha, otherwise, rita punya prajanam arakshita karahara. That is doing. Karahara is doing. He is taking the kara. He is taking the tax. But if he doesn't give arakshita, if he does not give protection, then agham atti, he will have to get sinful reactions. So these are all the laws of nature. These are laws of nature. And there are rights and responsibilities. So if one is using his rights, he also has to perform responsibility. No, here it's only said liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. That is all that is said. Correct. That is also there. His own pious activities are also taken, and he has to suffer for impious activities of the citizen. So, two-way loss. The principle applies to anyone in responsible position. No, why all leaders, all human beings? That is what we just read, no? It is applicable to all human beings. Okay, but as a leader, in a leadership position, then yes, these principles apply. These principles apply. Srila Prabhupada will actually be writing this in the purport. We'll go through the purport. Okay. The question may be raised here that if everyone engaged in spiritual activities to attain salvation and became indifferent to the activities of the material world, how could things go on? सब लोग भक्ति करेंगे तो ये दुनिया कैसे चलेगा? And if things are to go on as they ought to, how can a head of state be indifferent to such activities? In answer to this question, the word Shreya, auspicious, is used here. The division of activities in society as arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead was not blindly or accidentally created as foolish people say. The Brahmana must do his duty properly, and the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and even the Shudra must do the same. Everyone has to do what? What? Duty. Must do. You see, Prabhupada is using must do. Everyone has to do his respective duty. And every one of them can achieve the highest perfection of life, that is liberation from material body. So if they perform their duties, ultimately, of course, for the pleasure of the Lord, sve sve karmani abhirata samsiddhim lavate nara. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can attain the highest perfection. Okay. Lord Vishnu advised Maharaj Prithu that a king is not enjoined to give up his kingdom and the responsibility of protecting the prajas or citizens to instead go away to Himalayas for liberation. He can attain liberation while executing his royal duties. The royal duty or the duty of the head of the state is to see that the prajas or the general mass of people are doing their respective duties for spiritual salvation. Okay? So the king's duty is to see that all others are doing their respective duties properly. A secular state does not necessitate a king or a head of state who is indifferent to the activities of the prajas. In the modern state, the government has many rules and regulations for conducting the duties of the prajas, but the government neglects to see the citizens advance in spiritual knowledge. If the government is careless in this matter, the citizens will act whimsically without any sense of God realization or spiritual life and thus become entangled in sinful activities. An executive head should not be callous to the welfare of the general mass of people while he simply goes on collecting taxes. The king's real duty is to see that the citizens gradually become fully Krishna conscious. So we all know the well-known verse from King Rishabdev, Guru na sasyat, Swajuno na sasyat, Pita na sasyat, all that. So anyone in responsible position, his main duty is so yes, deliver them from the cycle of birth and death. So the king's real duty is to see that citizens gradually become fully Krishna conscious. And if this is applicable to a leader in the outside society, then what to speak of spiritual leaders? As soon as there is complete eradication of sinful activities in the state, then there will be no more war, pestilence, famine, or national disturbance. This was actually prevailing during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthir. If a king or head of the government is able to induce the citizens to become Krishna conscious, then he is worthy to rule over the mass of people. Otherwise, he has no right to levy taxes. If the king looks after the spiritual interests of the citizens, he can levy taxes without difficulties. In this way, both the subjects and the king will be happy during this life, and in the next life, the king will be able to share 1/6 of the pious activities of the citizens. Otherwise, by levying taxes on the sinful citizens, he will have to share the reactions of their sinful activities. Now see the next paragraph. The same principle can be applied to parents and spiritual masters as well. Same principle. So the same principle applies to anyone in responsible position. If parents simply give birth to children like cats and dogs, but cannot save their children from imminent death, they become responsible for activities of the animalistic children. Lately, such children are turning into hippies. Similarly, if a spiritual master cannot direct his disciples to become free of sinful activities, he becomes responsible for their sinful acts. These subtle laws of nature, all these are what? Subtle laws of nature, are unknown to the present leaders of society. Since the leaders of society have a poor fund of knowledge, and the citizens in general are rogues and thieves, there cannot be an auspicious situation for human society. At the present moment, the whole world is full of such an incompatible combination of states and citizens, and therefore there is a constant tension, war, and anxiety as an inevitable result of such social conditions. So we can see these days practically everywhere some war is going on. So much of war everywhere. So much of war, so many earthquakes. We just heard there was an earthquake in Russia yesterday. So many problems these days. Why? No duty. People are not performing their duties, their responsibilities which they're supposed to perform as human beings. So therefore, then what to speak of somebody on the spiritual path? It's even more serious responsibility. So therefore, everyone should be very careful to understand what are my duties and am I performing those duties properly. Each one of us has to ask this question. What are my duties? Am I performing them properly? To the degree we perform, then we will get the benefit. If we don't perform those duties, then I will be in trouble and I may put others also into trouble. So sometimes we find these things happening even in spiritual societies, where people give donations, people give money, charity things are misused. Things are misused. And things are not used for the right purpose. Money goes into wrong hands. People use for some other things. So every one of us has to understand this point. So we are liable for every action that we do. Nothing goes unnoticed. The Paramatma is there and everything is being noticed. So therefore, one has to be alert. Yes, so each one has to do his responsibility. Srila Prabhupada gave the well-known example, we have said it many times, that if the man is fallen in the well, a person throws a rope, then what the person in the well has to do? Hold the rope. So Guru can give instructions, that is his duty. So therefore, Lord Rishabhdeva has said that one in responsible position has to continue to give his instructions even though subordinate is not following, without getting angry. This is 5th canto, 5th chapter, 15th verse. Lord Rishabhdeva is saying. So, subordinate may not be following, but if I am in a leadership position, I need to continue to give my instructions because that is my duty. Duty has to be performed. Duty has to be performed. Each one has to think like that. What is my duty? That's what Srila Prabhupada is writing. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Everyone must do their respective duties. So each one has to think, what are my duties? Am I fulfilling my duties? That is most important to think of. Sometimes we are too much interested in whether others are doing their duties. No. I should first of all concentrate on whether I am doing my duties properly. That should be my first concern. So, if I do, so therefore, the responsible position has to continue to give instructions. And what is the duty of the subordinate? To follow. So then Srila Prabhupada says, yes, I may give instructions, but if you do not follow, I am helpless. I cannot do anything. So each one has to do their duties. So the Guru, his responsibility is to give instructions, and the disciple's responsibility is to follow instructions. So if the Guru is doing his duty, the disciple is not doing his duty, then Guru is not responsible for that. So otherwise if the disciple doesn't follow and the Guru has to get reaction for everything, then that's another problem. It doesn't work that way. If the Guru is not performing his duty of giving instructions, guidance and helping the disciple, then the spiritual master becomes liable. If the Guru is doing his duty nicely, and if the disciple doesn't follow, then that's his responsibility. The responsibility of the disciple himself, not the Guru. So the important point that throughout the Shastra, in fact throughout the Bhagavad Gita, what is the main emphasis which Krishna is giving? Performing one's duty. That is the main emphasis. Right? Arjuna was escaping from duty, and the whole Bhagavad Gita was spoken to, yes, to encourage him, perform your duty without attachment to fruits. That's the whole emphasis of the Bhagavad Gita. And that is the symptom of mode of goodness. The symptom of the mode of goodness is one performs duty. Whether one likes it or not, one is ready to perform duty without attachment to fruits. Okay?
How this duty is decided? Like we say in Arjuna case is Kshatriya, so that is duty.
Yes, so as far as we are concerned, whatever my authorities give, that is my duty. Very simple. Now we don't know who's Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, we don't know. But as far as we are concerned, in a spiritual society, the spiritual authorities, what duties they give, that's my duty. Yes.
Krishna is engaged, whatever this duty is Arjuna, his duty is whatever is being like you do for me, like that they told.
Correct.
What deep teaching I use nowadays, that is
doing some duties, material world, he is studying, he is doing engineering. Can we make, so whatever you do it for Krishna. So why we are changing his position? No. Stop that, come to become a brahmachari, do like this. What I tell that, do that is a duty, not that what you are previously doing. So how we can contradict? Because Arjuna
No, these things have, mature decisions have to be made. Not that we just tell anyone to give up their material responsibilities and join and things like that. No. These things have to be dealt with maturely. Otherwise, again, there'll be problems. So, because, okay, we encourage people to renounce, but one has to see carefully what is the adhikar, what is their qualification, whether they are qualified for renunciation or not. So one has to take mature decisions. Ultimately, of course, we encourage everyone to become Krishna conscious. That is what is most important. Okay, remain brahmachari, grihastha, whatever. But become Krishna conscious, whatever may be the duty. That's what is most important. Yes, bro.
In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions it like it is generally lesson is told that based on Arjuna's receptivity, Krishna is giving instructions and all. But now we were discussing that 5.5.15 that whether disciple following or not, Guru should give instruction. So both seems to be contradictory. So
How?
like based on if whether following or not, we should give instruction. That is in Bhagavatam, and in Bhagavad Gita, like based on the receptivity gives instruction. Krishna gives instruction.
So Krishna gave instructions to Arjuna when he surrendered. The moment he said Karpani dosho pata svabhava, then Krishna started giving instructions. So of course, some level of receptivity and surrender definitely has to be there. Then of course we give instructions according to the level of the person that is there. But the point is, duty has to be done. That is the point. Whatever is one's duty, one should not give up the performance of that duty. That is the important principle. Okay.
Instruction and suggestion is one or same, different?
Depends on the level of the person. Depends on level and what is one's relationship. So if there is only a friendly relation, so that's initially between Arjuna and Krishna. So when there was only a friendly relation, then Krishna did not give any instruction, right? So when there's only a friendly relation, there is no responsibility, accountability. When there is no formal relation, then I can only give suggestion. No? If you remember, we read that statement, no? I don't know, we read it here or somewhere else. 17th chapter, 15th verse. What is 17th chapter, 15th verse? Yes, Anudvega Karam Vakyam. We read that statement here? From the purport? What is that? A teacher should not instruct someone who is not his student. Prabhupada writes that very clearly. So that means, if there is no relationship, then I cannot instruct. Maybe at the most I can give suggestion, some advice. I cannot instruct. No. Even if I instruct, the other person will say, why should I follow? Why should I follow? There is no relation. But if a guru instructs, then the disciple is supposed to follow because there is a formal relationship. And the disciple has voluntarily agreed to surrender to the guru. So then when the guru gives instruction, he is supposed to follow. Of course, free will of the jiva is always there, but there is a more formal relationship. So then the disciple is obliged to follow. So the same thing between parents and children, teacher and students. So when there is a relationship, then instructions can be given. Otherwise, without relationship, one cannot give instructions. Okay. So Lord Vishnu has told Prithu Maharaj that he must do his duty of what? Lokapalanam. His duty of protecting his praja. Otherwise, he has told him what will be the reaction. Okay. Now 15th verse, again very important verse. Evam dvijagriya numata nuvritta dharma pradhano nyatamo vitasya prasvena kalena grihopayatan drashta siddhan anurakta lokaha.
Lord Vishnu continued, my dear King Prithu, if you continue to protect the citizen according to the instruction of the learned Brahmanas authorities, as they are received by the disciplic succession, by hearing from master to disciple, and if you follow the religious principle laid down by them without attachment to ideas manufactured by mental concoction, then every one of your citizens will be happy and will love you. And very soon you will be able to see such already liberated personalities as the four Kumaras, Sanat, Sanatan, Sanat Kumar.
So here again some very important points. So now Lord Vishnu is telling Prithu Maharaj what will be the benefits if he does his duties properly. If he does his duties properly. So he says, evam, which Srila Prabhupada in the translation he expands as, if you continue to protect the citizens. That is the meaning of evam, thus. Because in the previous verse, the Lord told him what? You must protect the citizens. So if you continue to